Hey guys, it's Autumn. So I wanted to make a video to talk about something that I had briefly read about a few years ago. It was about how you can learn a language without spending any money. So you can invest $0 and become fluent in a language. And after about, about 2 years ago I think I read this. So I've been learning languages now for about 8 years, and for about 3 years ago is when I decided to teach myself a language for the first time. So I wanted to share with you my experience and what I think about this subject and the topic, and if you can really become fluent in a language without spending any money. So now, the first language I taught myself was Italian. The other two languages prior to that, Spanish and Chinese, I had learned in school, middle school and high school. So learning Italian, I was like 18 or 17 at the time, so I was still in high school, on a pretty tight budget, I would say, since I was going off to college soon. And so the first 2 years, I would say I tried to spend as little money as possible. I believe in the first 2 years, the only money I spent on the language was on language books. I believe I probably spent under $50. So what I think is pretty good, because I had about like 4 books maybe. And the books I used, some were pretty helpful. I had like a dictionary, I had a grammar book. I think I had a workbook. I like the workbook a lot. I like workbooks in general though, so that's probably why. And so around the 2-year mark is when I moved to Italy temporarily to work as an au pair. So if you've seen any of my prior videos, you probably already know this because I've mentioned it a few times. So I went to work as an au pair for 3 months. I didn't take any Italian classes when I was there. I was kind of under the impression that I didn't need to, and once again I didn't want to spend any money to do so. So yes, going to Italy itself did cost money. But being an au pair, a lot of people go and be an au pair and they don't speak the language of the country they're going to. So let's not counter that in, for instance. But seeing that I did go there to improve my Italian, I guess I would say, yeah, it was a bit of money I spent to try to improve Italian. So I didn't say, since I didn't take any classes there, I would say my Italian only improved at a conversational level. So that means that I could, have a conversation with someone, I could order food, ask for help in a grocery store, that kind of thing. But I still couldn't, like, in terms of holding a conversation with someone, it's just like little, like, small talk, I would say. I couldn't have, like, an in-depth conversation with someone in Italian, if you know what I mean. So after that, I went home and realized that if I wanted to improve my Italian, I had to do some other things about it. And prior to that, before, when I didn't want to spend any money whatsoever, I kind of lived by the rule that, you don't need to spend money to learn a language fluently. I used a lot of apps, and I used a lot of resources on the internet. So once again, that's why I didn't buy a lot of books either. Although, when it comes to languages that aren't so popular to learn as a second language or foreign language, there are less resources. So there are a good amount of resources for Italian, and it is a popular language to learn, but it's not as popular as, say, French or Spanish. So after that, I came home and I realized that, like, the way I was studying when I was doing there would by no means have me reach the level that I wanted to reach in Italian. So I decided in 2019 I would take the C2 exam. And so I knew there was a lot that I needed to do. And this is when I started investing more money. So at the time, this was probably around more like 7 or 8 months ago, I decided that I was going to take this exam. And at first I wasn't leaning toward the C2 exam, I was leaning toward the B2 exam. Because I didn't know what level I was, and all the tests I took online, I was borderline B1, B2. So I was almost at B2, but not quite. So then I had read a lot about other resources available for learning languages if you live in a place where you can't really practice this language. And I did. I lived in Wisconsin, where when I was studying Spanish and Chinese in school, I had exposure to that. Maybe not a whole lot, but also in every place that I've lived, I've had exposure to Spanish and Chinese. So there wasn't too big of a problem with being able to practice those languages. Where in Wisconsin, I had never met a single Italian, never heard anybody speak Italian there. It wasn't until I went to Florida where I actually heard Italians speaking Italian for the first time. So yeah, so what I started to do was shortly after I decided to take this exam, I was living in Wisconsin, but then about 2 months later I had moved to Australia, so where I'm living now in Melbourne. So I enrolled for an Italian class because since I never had that exposure in a classroom setting, I wanted to try it out and see what it'd be like, and I thought it'd be really beneficial because you're going to be able to speak it a lot more. And so I just finished my first term in class. I would say it was a really good investment because all the teachers at the school, at the Italian school, they're all native speakers. You're forced to speak it pretty much all the time. So overall, I thought it was a really good investment. And I also bought some test prep books. The test prep books, they're a bit like, one's like a workbook, the other goes over all the things you'll be doing on the exam. So it makes sure you're working in every area, which is also, I think, super beneficial. Now, test prep books aren't always the cheapest. I think in US dollars, mine probably cost close to 40, which I guess I can't complain about much because I know there are some that are more expensive. Overall, I think it was a really good investment. I also use italki, and I use italki for not only Italian, but Spanish as well, and French and Greek. So I really, really love italki because you can literally, it's probably the easiest way to talk to a native speaker, and it's also very cheap. So now, since I've started using all these methods and investing more money, my Italian level is very close to a C1 level now. So I think, in my opinion, yes, you can get by studying a language and not putting too much money into it. You can try to like learn it for $0 or like, investing $0. And of course, there's a lot of things that impact this. Like maybe you're learning a language and you live in an area where this language is spoken a lot and you can practice it a lot more. You can definitely get by learning the language to a good level, maybe even becoming fluent in it, and not having to spend really any money. But if you're living in an area like I was, where I didn't have exposure to it, and I didn't have the opportunity to take a class there, I didn't really have opportunity to use it as much as I liked, then it's going to be a lot harder to find free resources, I would say. Although the internet, of course, has a plethora of all of these, which is great, super great. But once again, in my opinion, it's always great to have access to talk to a native speaker. I think that's one of the fastest way you kind of learn, or it is for me, that is. So yeah, I would say overall, the more money you put into it, the better your language skills are going to get. But once again, that's just my dumb opinion. Maybe different strategies work for different people. Well, I know that's a fact. Different strategies do work for different people. But it really takes into account of, your commitment level, where you live, all sorts of things. There's a lot of different variables out there that come into play with this. But once again, in my opinion, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And I'm not saying you have to spend $1 million to become fluent in a language. You certainly don't. You don't have to spend a lot of money in general. Just, if it's something that you really want to get good at, just know money does factor in a little bit. Not a whole lot, but overall, I would say. Again, but I guess that depends too. Maybe you're studying it at a university. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money then. That's for sure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this subject, and if maybe you've been learning a language on your own independently, and how maybe money has come into play with that. If you've had to spend a lot, if you've had to spend a little, how it's going in general. What's up, guys? I don't know. Just let me know in the comments. All right, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.